This is Will Montgomery, former Washington Redskins center.
Yo, what's good, folks? This is Trey Johnson, the headbanger, yo, and you're listening to Mess Hall with Rally Captain and Tailgate Ted. Word.
What's going on, Rally? How you doing, man?
Ted, man, it's cold outside, but it's warm in my heart. And I have to say that I've got great news today, man, and I can't wait to share it. Let's get it.
Man, you teased it at the end of last week's show, and you mentioned you were going to share how much money you ended up raising for the Red Cross with the help of our friends from Woodbridge Collectibles. So, man, let's just get to it. How much money did you actually end up pulling out there for those guys?
Well, first, let me say, once again, thank you to Woodbridge Collectibles, and thank you to the many fans who came out to the rallies to be able to donate to this great cause, the American Red Cross. As you know, I'm very passionate. I give blood every 6 weeks, as much as I possibly can, to help another life, because blood right now, as we know, it's scarce. And so, you want to be able to, if your loved one is in an accident or some type of tragedy, you want to be able to have blood in the banks to help them and anyone else that may need it. So I'm happy to say, Ted, that with everyone's help, their donations brought $1,415. So my hat's off to you guys. Thank you so much.
That's awesome to hear, man. Seriously, it's just doing something that you're doing anyway, hosting these rallies. And with the guys at Woodbridge Collectibles giving you Smoot jerseys, other jerseys to raffle off, and seeing your following and all those people at those rallies just raising that money for a good cause. You're right, man. It is 30 degrees out, but it must feel like it's 80, considering how heartwarming that is, dude. So hats off to you, man. I should have put one on so I could take it off right now, because that is badass.
You can give me a salute. How about that?
There you go. We are the Commanders, man. So
that's right.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
So we gotta, find a way to top that next season, man. Now that we got a whole season underneath your belt.
Well, hopefully we have some more sponsors along with Woodbridge Collectibles, and we can make this thing even bigger and better than last year, because you're only as good as your last performance. And so $1,415 is our last performance. We're looking for possibly 2. How about that?
Hey, I'll see if Hale Barbecue can throw some cash in there for you too. So I'll see what we got lying around the coffers. But maybe we can also send Daron Payne a tweet, because that big man just got paid and he's got some money burning a hole in his pocket, let me tell you.
Well, yeah, and I heard that he said he's going to take his family on a vacation. So the way I look at it, hey, brother, we're all family. You know what I mean? So let's go.
Hey, Daron, hit up sbevents.net. Have you seen the pictures from, where were you in Bora Bora?
Bora Bora.
I didn't even know that was a real place until you sent me pictures. But if you've seen the pictures, Daron, you need to hit Rally up, because that vacation looked top notch. And rumor is you've got about $60 million burning a hole in your pocket that you can spend. And I was shocked. I did not think that the Commanders would get this deal done. They were the first team to franchise a player with a franchise tag, and they used the non-exclusive tag. And backtracking, for those listeners that missed that, the non-exclusive tag meant that Daron could have started talking to other teams. The legal tampering period started this past Monday. And for those wondering, it is Wednesday the 15th at 4:18 that we're recording this. So Daron could have started talking to other teams, and more so his agent, not him. And he got tagged on February 28th. Well, the team decided to not let Daron test the market and not let Daron negotiate. And they offered him a 4-year contract worth up to $90 million. Couldn't believe it.
Yeah, neither could I. And I have to tell you, Ted, and our listeners, I was one of the guys who just didn't think that we had the money to be able to do it. And because of that, I was shocked. And I think in some the prior pods, I was saying, of course, I would love for them to do it, but how can they do it? And so that just goes to show you that's why I don't work in the front office of the Commanders, because I would have written it off and we would have been looking at our rookie who got injured to step in, DeMathis, to take his place. But that's once again why I am not in the front office. You or I aren't in the front office. And so, but speaking of that, I mean, I know that you are a numbers cruncher. And because of that, I know you know how they were able to get it done. So talk to us. How were they able to get it done?
So his AAV, which is his annual average value of the contract, that's what the players like to tout when they're bragging amongst each other on what their deal is. Just for comparison, John Allen, who signed his big deal last year, his AAV is $18 million. John's cap number for 2023 is $21.4 million. Now, Daron, if he was actually going to play on that franchise tag, would have cost $18.9 million against the cap. But because the Commanders locked him up to that 4-year deal, he's actually only costing $10 million against the cap this year. So they saved themselves almost $9 million by signing Daron to that long-term deal. His AAV for his contract is $22.5 million. So they're spreading this out long-term. And part of this was, I didn't think it was doable because of the whole Dan Snyder being on the outs thing and the whole escrow accounts.
Right.
So Kevin Sheehan had, I think, let me pull it up here. It was J.I. Halsell on his show. And J.I. went over basically the 2023 escrow requirements for contracts and owners. So what we were led to believe was that Snyder would have to put all that money down now if he were to lock up Daron Payne. So at that point, I'm thinking there is no way in the world Snyder's going to want to throw out $60 million for a player where he's not even going to own the team in a year potentially, or 3 or 4 when Daron's here. Well, it turns out that the NFL did their escrow requirement review on January 31st of 2023. Because Daron's contract didn't happen then, Daron isn't going to get paid really by Dan. The deadline to fund escrow accounts is on March 31st. So because the actual review happened, Snyder doesn't have to fund an escrow account for Daron. Next year in January, that's when another review is going to be done. So they're going to see that the escrow account for Daron Payne is going to be short some change, a couple $1 million of change. So whoever is owner at that point in time is going to have to dedicate that money and put it in an escrow account. So if Snyder owns a team come next year, then he's on the hook for that guaranteed money. If it's not Snyder and it's Harrison Rails or Bezos or who knows, then that person is going to be on the hook for Daron's money. So knowing that, and when that news came out, it gave me some hope for the offseason and really what we're going through right now with free agency. Free agency started today at 4 o'clock. So you're seeing players getting picked up as we speak, and we'll talk about that as that hits.
Yeah.
Only thing that concerns me is the future years in this contract. And we've said it multiple times. I don't think Ron Rivera is going to be here next year. I think a new owner is going to want to bring in his own people. And I don't think the team is going to be good next year because they have a lot of things going against them. And the only way Ron sticks around is if we make the playoffs. I hope I'm wrong. I've been wrong before, just like I didn't think they'd sign Daron. But what scares me is if you take Daron's number and John's number, you're now talking almost $45 million in 2024 for your 2 interior defensive linemen. On top of that, you potentially have to pay Montez Sweat. You're going to potentially have to pay Chase Young. So you can't keep all 4 of these first rounders. And the team has publicly said that they don't plan on exercising Chase Young's option. And it's getting pretty pricey with that defensive line. I think the thing that worked in Daron's favor was, you mentioned it, Phil Mathis, his replacement, got hurt. And it gave Daron a chance to ball out and get those 11.5 sacks. And I'm happy for the young man. He deserves to be
definitely.
paid, and let someone else crunch those numbers and deal with that down the road. And if Sam Howell can hit, then hey, we don't got to pay a quarterback top dollar. We can spread that money around to that defensive line and maybe some offensive line.
And I'm all about spreading that money, brother, because it needs to be. It's like peanut butter and jelly. Spread it, baby, and make us a good sandwich. Because right now, we need to be able to feast on some prospects coming to the Commanders. We need all of it we can get, man.
We do. And I mean, speaking of spreading around, I mean, he gets a $500,000 workout bonus each year. You know, he could just maybe spread. Yeah, exactly.
Imagine I can live it at.
You know, what we could do with that. But I'm happy for him. And when he and John were out there, those two men were unstoppable. So I'm just hoping for the same. I'm hoping it wasn't a contract year fluke. And it was exciting and good to see just some positive news come out for our franchise. So hats off to Daron.
Definitely.
But something that rubbed a couple Commanders fans the wrong way was the fact that Taylor Heinicke is signing a contract with the Atlanta Falcons. And
yeah, that I'm not going to say it rubbed me the wrong way. I mean, it was one of those things to where, no, I didn't like it, but you get to a certain age and you understand that that's just the business of football or sports in general. So, I mean, I was rooting for Heinicke, you know, when he let us down. I was still rooting for him when he threw those picks, Kirk Cousin-esque, if you will. I was still rooting for him because ultimately that's all we had. At least that's what we thought. Now we see that he's no longer here, and we're going to find out that you got to have a short memory. So yes, let's go ahead, and everybody who's upset, who's mad, the whole 9 yards, let's get it out of our system and live to see another day, because the light is bright at the end of the Sam Howell tunnel.
And I sent a tweet out, and I'm happy for Heinicke.
Oh, yeah.
I am even happier that chapter of his career is over. Those of our listeners that have been longtime listeners know my opinion on Taylor. He's a 500 quarterback. He's 12-12-1 as a starter. He signed a 2-year, $14 million contract with the Falcons. He's getting a $4 million signing bonus, $6.32 million guaranteed. And he's got an AAV of $7 million. He can earn up to 14. I don't think he's going to earn 14. And he's going to be the backup over there. He's not going to be the starter. They're sticking with, I think the kid's Jeremy Ritter over there.
Yeah.
So he's going to have a chance to potentially take that job away from him. But Heinicke's also from Georgia, so he's getting a chance to go home. So I'm excited for him. And I'm also excited for the Heinicke Hive to find something else to complain about. The team actually reached out to Chad Henne. Do you know who Chad Henne is?
Was that his old coach?
No. So Chad Henne was the backup quarterback for Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, yeah. They wanted to bring him out of retirement.
Yeah. Henne retired after they won the Super Bowl, apparently drinking a Bud Light. And Henne played, I'm looking at it here, I think it was 15 years in the NFL, something ridiculous like that, and made up to $40 million. So if I'm Henne, why am I going to come back to be a backup and try and teach Sam Howell? I'm going to take my $40 million and hang out in Bora Bora with Raleigh and just enjoy my retirement with my 2 Super Bowl rings.
Brother, who you telling? At this juncture, I'd be like, who? Huh?
Yeah.
No comprende. You know, I mean, I'll see you guys on the other side. You know, I'm not putting my body through that. Jeez.
No, there's no way I'd want to go through training camp and go through all that and to potentially be a backup quarterback over here for the Commanders. But Diana Rossini just tweeted this a minute ago. The Commanders are expected to sign Jacoby Brissett. Jacoby most recently played with the Cleveland Browns. He has been in the league since 2016. He was a third-round pick by the Patriots. For those of our listeners that haven't followed Jacoby through his career, he's not really a fantasy quarterback stud, so I don't know anyone that would really know much about him. But the Pats drafted him in 16. He got traded to the Colts. The Colts actually had him start for them because Andrew Luck suffered a horrible injury in 17, and their backup, Scott Tolzien, went down on top of that. Then Luck came back in 18, so Brissett went back to be a backup. Then Luck retired in 19, so Brissett ended up starting. And then apparently he didn't do a good enough job because the Colts brought in Phillip Rivers in 2020. So Brissett got moved to the backup again. Then he ended up going to the Dolphins in 21. And because of the whole Deshaun Watson being suspended by the league, he actually ended up playing for the Cleveland Browns last year. So I think that's pretty much the definition of a journeyman quarterback. I mean, he's not quite, Ryan Fitzpatrick teams that he's played with, but he's been around the league. He's started a bunch of places, and it looks like he's going to compete with Sam Howell for that job here, that QB1 job in DC. Curious what your thoughts are.
I'm not mad at that decision. I think that he has enough experience to compete for the starting position. I mean, obviously his resume speaks for itself. So I like the fact that he's a typical tall, strong arm quarterback. I like that. He can see the field. I'm not quite sure what all of his stats are, but just from what I've seen, I'm not mad at it. And at this point, we have Howell, who has a lot of upside. It's just a matter of him getting the playbook in hand and making it happen. And as my T-shirt says, for those who have seen it and for those who may not have seen it before, it says, it doesn't have to be pretty. Just move the chains. That's all we ask for. That's all we ask for. And you asked me about Heinicke, and that's all I asked for Heinicke. I actually gave Carson this T-shirt. Well, Carson didn't read it, obviously. He didn't read it because he didn't move the chain. But I will be giving Kobe a shirt, as well as when I see Sam Howell, I'll give him a shirt as well, so that they can ingrain this in their head. It doesn't have to be pretty. Just move the chains. And we've got an upside, and let's go from here, bro. How do you feel about it?
I mean, from a stats perspective, Brissett completed 61% of his passes. He had basically a 2-to-1 touchdown to INT ratio, 48 TDs, 23 picks. He also has 15 career rushing touchdowns with 900 rushing yards in 48 starts. So I wanted Marcus Mariota to come here. I wanted us to get him because when he played with the Falcons, he was able to use his legs, run that read option, and torch us. I want a backup to Howell, assuming Howell wins a job, somebody with a similar skill set to Howell that can run, use that read option, and also throw that ball. I didn't want someone like a Carson Wentz, for example, and we all know Carson wasn't staying here, but I wouldn't want Carson to be QB2 if Howell's QB1 because their skill sets are too different. You would have to give the offense to two different people. I want someone with the same mindset. I don't know enough about Brissett to see if they have similar games, to see if they have similar skills. So that's something I'm looking forward to hearing from all the different beat guys and watching maybe some YouTube later to see some of the Brissett highlights. But if Brissett's here now, and the fact that Mariota hasn't signed anywhere, I'm curious why, because there was that drama with Mariota last year where he basically just left the team. The Falcons and him just didn't get along, and there were a lot of rumors floating around that he didn't get along with the staff. He was pissed off that he got benched for Ritter, and he kind of just walked out on his teammates. So knowing that Eric Bieniemy's a hard ass, maybe that wasn't the type of guy they wanted here. But I am curious to see what these contract terms are, what these details are, because rumor has it that they just couldn't come to a number with Taylor Heinicke. So Heinicke's making up to $14 million over in Atlanta. Well, what are we offering Brissett? And it's too early for us to know. And granted, it's not my pocket, but I am still curious, who's going to get what. Because really, I think we got Daron Payne at a steal. I think Daron Payne's contract is probably going to be maybe the third or fourth most for a defensive tackle this season. But he wanted to get it done now, and he started the whole thing. So
well, going back to Taylor for a second. So we say they couldn't reach a number with him. I say maybe he didn't want to reach a number with them, and only because of what happened toward the end of the season. And also, I think that the coaches probably understand, and I'm this is a stretch, but not too far of a stretch. Maybe they understood that, hey, there's going to be controversy here, and coming into this, we don't need controversy. Meaning, when Sam, and we've heard it before, when Sam throws that interception, the crowd will be chanting Heinicke, and we saw how that worked out for us when Carson was on the field. Albeit, we all understood why they were calling Heinicke's name when Carson was on the field. We just don't want to go through that again. I mean, it's 2023, going into the 23-24 season. We want something solid, and I don't think that they'll be calling for Brissett if Howell makes those same type of mistakes that Carson may have off the rip. I think that the fan base is going to be a little bit more forgiving than if they would have been if Heinicke was here.
I agree with you. I really agree with you. And Heinicke's coach actually came out and said something. I think it was this college coach came out and said something recently. And it was something to the effect, and I'll see if I can pull it up here, but Heinicke wasn't happy about how Rivera just treated him with the whole benching against the Browns. Mm-hmm. And trying to see if I can actually pull up what it says here. And he got passed over multiple times. And if I can't find it, no worries. But his coach basically said that it was a smart move for Heinicke to not play that Cowboys game and go in the offseason healthy. And I don't blame the young man. It was, it made it seem like Heinicke was being benevolent and letting Howell start because he deserved a chance to get looked at. No, if I'm Heinicke, you pass me over for Carson Wentz in a must-win game. You saw how that went and how Wentz fell flat on his face.
Yeah.
Now you get knocked out the playoffs when your coach didn't even realize you get knocked to playoffs. And you want me to play against the Cowboys who have something to play for with a patchwork offensive line in front of me. No, I'm going to go in the offseason healthy and try and get paid. And good for him, he did.
Yeah.
So like I said earlier, I'm happy for the guy. I'm actually curious. Let's start off with the bad and end with the good. What is your worst Heinicke memory and your most favorite Heinicke memory over his tenure here?
Worst memory is I think that we were driving, and I can't remember which game it is, so please forgive me, but everyone's going to know what I'm talking about. We were driving down the field, game's on the line, and he throws an interception.
Which time?
To basically end the game. I mean, we were on like the 10-yard line. I mean, we were right there, and he throws a pick, and it's done. And let the win out of everybody's sails that game. And forgive me because I don't know the name, who we were playing, but I just remember that it was just we were there. We were there. The most memorable game, obviously, is the Tampa game when we didn't know who the heck this kid was, and which put him on the map here. And that diving to the pylon, that is what put him on the map, and that is what is forever ingrained in Commanders, Washington football team fans' minds, that this kid has heart. Who is this kid? How is he doing this? And yes, we feel as fans that we almost beat Tampa Bay, but we really didn't almost beat Tampa Bay.
We did.
But
People need to go back and look.
We didn't. But as fans, we feel as though we almost did. So I'm going to say I was one of those fans that feel that we almost beat Tampa Bay, even though we didn't. All right. So those are the two that stick out in my mind. It's kind of his decline, as well as what got him on the map to begin with. What say you?
Yeah. So for me, the one thing that killed me was the game in Green Bay where he dove short of the goal line. We had a chance to beat the Packers up there, beat Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay, and he dove too fast. He dove too soon, and he ended up being short of that goal line, and then that game spiraled out of control. But the one game I'm always going to remember him for is the Monday Night Eagles game. When you were up there this past year, they were undefeated. He didn't have the best stats at all, but the guts he had on a couple of those scrambles to just buy some time. And the play I'm going to remember him for here was that third down where he ran, scrambled around to try and extend the clock, and then he took a knee and got hit with that personal foul penalty because they came and decked him.
Yeah, and he gave himself up. Yeah.
He realized, I mean, just the smarts that guy had. If he had the arm to go with the smarts, he'd be a starter in this league making a hell of a lot more than $14 million. But
go ahead and say it. Go ahead and say that he'd be a starter for the Commanders. Don't say the league, the Commanders.
I don't think we'd have a chance to get him. I don't think he ever would have fallen to us. He wouldn't have been sleeping on his sister's couch at that point. I think
I see what you're saying.
He never would have played for the Battlehawks in the XFL and did all that stuff. But I am always going to remember how smart that guy was. I remember one time when Kirk Cousins ended up spiking a ball when he shouldn't have spiked the ball, and it just killed us. I think he actually took a knee when he wasn't supposed to take a knee. He was supposed to spike a ball. Yeah. And, just different stupid stuff like that. Heinicke knew down and distance and what was going on. And that's something I'm hoping he imparted on Sam Howell. And actually the details just came out. It looks like the Brissett deal, now that he's most likely going to be QB2, is a 1-year, $8 million deal that can hit $10 million. This is from Jeremy Fowler from ESPN.
Okay.
So knowing that it's a short-term deal like that, I'm even happier, because if the Howell experience does not work and the Brissett experience doesn't work, odds are Rivera's gone.
Yep.
And we get a new coaching staff that gets to start off fresh with their players. And to me, that is the most important part. That's what was best about Carson Wentz's contract. They cut him for 0 cap hit this year. And it looks like now that Brissett, he's here for a year. It's a prove-it deal. And Sam Howell's a rookie, and he's not costing you anything. So.
Well, Sam Howell isn't a rookie anymore.
Yeah, he's not
he ain't a rookie anymore.
He's
not a rookie anymore, bro. Hey, that gentleman has graduated. He is not a rookie anymore. And I got to tell you, I'm not looking at him as a rookie either. I'm looking at him, hey, you're in the NFL, bro. It's time to put up or shut up. We just said it.
I hear it. He's not QB1 for week 1. So Rivera said he's going to go into camp as QB1 to earn that spot. So I'll be curious, can he beat out this vet? And it's not like he's trying to beat out, Lamar Jackson, who all you Commanders fans kept talking about. Well, sorry, that ain't happening. Go back to our last podcast. Can Howell beat out Brissett, a 7-year veteran? And if he can't, then there's a reason why Howell fell to the 5th round.
Well, here's also something, Ted, that we need to think about. So obviously, you don't go into camp with just 2 quarterbacks. You have possibly 4. You will have 4 that you go into camp with. What happens if whoever they bring in just outshines everyone and he is the starter? Oh,
it's possible.
Oh,
it's definitely possible.
Yeah.
It looks like Jake Fromm is still on the depth chart.
Oh, that's right.
So I'm not sure what type of contract they offered him, but it looks like Fromm is still here. But they'll still bring in another quarterback. And for those of you that haven't been to training camp, they need bodies. Training camp, you start off with 90 players, I believe. Then you got to cut down to 53. Well, you need another QB to run plays. And that's really what it comes down to. So there was that guy last year. I can't think of his name, but that really tall guy. Yeah, that could have played for the Wizards. I mean, they'd probably be in a better spot than they are right now in the playoff run.
Wow.
But I'm excited to see what happens and that the questions can be stopped. You know, it's Brissett, it's Howell. We're riding with those two guys. But the one position that you and I agreed was the most important, I believe, was offensive line. So the team ended up signing Nick Gates from the Giants to a 3-year, $16.5 million contract. And he actually started for the Giants in both of their playoff games. If you're listening to this, you guys know the history of Nick Gates. He broke his leg here in DC at FedEx Field. I think it was 2021. So guy came back from 7 surgeries. Odds are people are saying he's going to be more of your depth guy, your backup guy. But who knows? Something's going to happen in camp. He might earn himself a spot. The one guy I am excited, though, is we got the tackle from the Chiefs. And it's not Orlando Brown Jr., which is the best free agent tackle out there. We got Andrew Wiley, their right tackle. They picked him up for 3 years, $24 million. Wiley played guard and tackle for the Chiefs, but he knows Bieniemy's system, and he can help those offensive linemen understand protection in Bieniemy's system. So that, to me, is key. But we did let go of John Matsko. So I was kind of shocked to see that. And we talked about that with Will Montgomery when we had him on the beginning of the season. Matsko was touted as one of the best offensive line coaches out there. And I think he just got dealt a bad hand.
Well, yeah. But if you also remember when we were the Redskins, who was our offensive line coach that became head coach just for a couple games, he was touted as one of the best offensive line coaches. As a matter of fact, he came from Dallas to here, and he did an outstanding job, but then they let him go, whether it was a bad hand or not as well. So it's the league, unfortunately. And one thing that I have to go back to that we talked about, Eric Bieniemy is the assistant head coach / offensive coordinator. So once again, I said it before, that speaks volumes because I can't remember the last time that we've had an assistant head coach. And Matsko probably was, I'm going to probably have to say that he was maybe just didn't fit in Bieniemy's what he was looking for.
And that's what John Keim put out here. John actually tweeted, Washington's decision to fire offensive line coach John Matsko was described as philosophical differences. Matsko's career had been mostly spent in a different system than what new OC Eric Bieniemy will use. The Commanders could opt to promote assistant offensive line coach Travell Wharton. So they don't have someone right now as their offensive line coach. Not a big deal. It's fine. Let Bieniemy pick his groceries, get whoever the hell he wants. The good news is we've got 2 linemen that are hopefully going to be better than those horrible Commanders that Rivera and the guys picked up last year in Turner and Norwell.
Well, is it Norwell still with us though?
He's still in a contract. And
for right now, he's still there. So we can't necessarily just count him out, even though we would like to.
I mean, you need bodies. And Norwell is still listed as a starter. So on the updated depth chart as of today at 404, and this is kind of crazy because I actually think they have Jacoby Brissett in here right now. They actually do. They've got Brissett as QB1 on the depth chart. But they've got Andrew Wiley at right tackle. They've got Sam Cosmi moved into right guard.
Okay.
Chase Rouillet at center. Okay. Andrew Norwell at left guard and Charles Leno at left tackle. And this is all speculative. You know, none of this matters. It is March 15th.
Yes.
Who knows who we're going to draft at 16? I hope it's a big boy so we can fill those trenches because we need to fix that offensive line. There's no jokes about it.
No.
And they're starting to do that.
Yeah, slowly but surely. And I love it because they heard the fans complain. They saw the film. And one thing they always say, people lie, players lie, but the film doesn't lie. So with that being said, keep it coming, and maybe we can bring in some young guys, because you can always draft a lineman in the higher ranks. So I'm really looking to see what we do. And out of everything, Ted, can you believe that the NFL schedule will be out roughly in 60 days?
60. That's a long time, man. There was Ocean's Calling. It's that music festival in Ocean City that they tried to do last year, but the hurricane stopped it from happening. So I'm trying to get tickets because they go on sale tomorrow morning, but it's October 1st. And I don't know if we got a home game, we got an away game, what we got. So I'm going to buy tickets, and we might be giving away to our listeners if I can't go and that schedule drops, it doesn't work out. But man, that's crazy to hear that it's just right around the corner.
Yeah, right around the corner. And actually, it's less than 60 days. I think it's more like 50, if I'm not mistaken, because May 12th is what I'm hearing. Then the schedule will drop.
That's exciting. That is definitely exciting. I'm more so excited to find out when we're playing the Rams because I want to get out there for that game, when we're playing the Jets.
Oh, yeah.
And when we're going to have that Taylor Heinicke revenge game versus the Falcons down in Atlanta.
Ooh-wee. Man, who are you telling, brother? And I got to give SB Events a plug because SB Events is going to have trips sponsored to all these games. And so if you got some money coming back on your taxes, put a little nugget to the side because we're going to wow you with this year's 2023/24 trips.
I'm looking forward to seeing that. I'm definitely not getting any money back on my taxes, but I have 2 kidneys. Maybe I can auction one off, see what we can figure out. Or maybe some of these guys that we did pick up can loan me a couple of dollars to pay for your trips. But we claimed Cameron Dantzler off of waivers. Dantzler is a cornerback. We talked about needing to get secondary depth. He was cut by the Vikings. The Vikings actually drafted him in the 3rd round in 2020. So
was he a starter?
He was not a starter for them.
Okay.
He was a depth guy. They've got him going behind Kendall Fuller, which, we need depth there. I'm sorry. Wild Goose and those other guys really don't instill a ton of fear in me. And, rumor has it that he is a good talent. So I'm hoping they can take advantage of that. We also ended up picking up Cody Barton. Cody is a linebacker who played for the Seahawks. He actually played 77% of the snaps from the Seahawks last year. So he's got some playing time. It's a 1-year prove-it deal. And I'm thinking that's because we let Cole Holcomb walk. Cole Holcomb and his mullet are all both going to be in Pittsburgh now because he can be playing for the Steelers.
In Pittsburgh. And Ted, man, I got to say that when I saw us pick this kid up out of Seattle, I said, gee, okay, what's going to happen with Cole Holcomb? And not shortly after, we see that he's with the Steelers. So that answered my question. But also the thing is, is he truly healthy? Because the Commanders tried to pull the rug over our eyes or underneath our feet by saying that nothing was wrong with him for the longest time, and then finally came out and said that he had a foot injury. Because I don't know about you, but I was waiting with bated breath, saying, okay, when is he going to return? When is he going to? They're saying that nothing's wrong with him, so when is he going to return? Because who's going to be beside Jamin Davis? And for the longest time, man, they played us. They played us, bro. They were like, nothing's really wrong with him. Too bad, until I forgot who leaked the story that said, his foot is jacked up. And so, but they didn't want to come out and say it at first. Maybe it's because they had hope that it wasn't going to be as bad as it was. But from here on out, if I hear that a player isn't as bad as they say, then I'm going ahead and canceling Christmas and think that's the worst. I'm here to tell you.
No, they are never been honest when it comes to injuries. I mean, Rivera publicly states he schedules the press conferences before he goes to talk to the trainers. That way he doesn't actually know anything and he doesn't slip up and leak any details. But the Holcomb deal is contingent on him passing a physical.
Yeah.
So he's got to pass that physical first. We'll see what happens. And I'm looking here at the depth chart, and it looks like they're slating Barton beside Mayo, not beside Mayo, beside Davis. So, I mean, Davis proved he can be that Mike, and he can have that green dot towards the end of the season. So maybe Barton can do something, because they, I think, re-up Milo Eifler. We still have David Mayo under contract. They gave an offer to Khalid Hudson. So that linebacking core is there. It's just not strong. And it's been a weakness on this team. And you hope those big boys up front can do what they need to do to free up those linebackers. But time will tell. But, you know, once again, Cole Holcomb, he was great here. But I just don't feel that he's that missing piece. And considering what he's getting paid up in Pittsburgh, I'm not crying. You know, let him walk, let him have a good time up there. And maybe we'll find someone else that'll have a mullet and we can, you know, hang out with on the sidelines during training camp.
Yeah, none of our linebackers truly scared anyone. You know, they didn't put fear in anyone. And so I think that the time has come for us to get someone who can possibly, when you hear that person's name, you go, ooh, you know, versus,
Yeah, and I can't remember who it was. It might have been Michael Phillips or one of the guys talking on the local sports channels. They're actually saying, other than Micah Parsons, that Jamin Davis is one of the best linebackers to come out of that draft class, which I haven't gone back to look at it. And I wanted that guy from Notre Dame. He was on the smaller side. They ended up not picking him. But I'll take everyone's word for it at that point. And, you know, it's tough. There's only a Micah Parsons, a generational type player. But if Jamin can take that next leap next season, and the league is moving away from 2 linebacker sets and 3 linebacker sets and more to kind of a single nickel or dime package with someone else coming down, maybe it'll be better. And the team did offer a tender to Jeremy Reeves. So knowing that Jeremy Reeves, all pro plus Pro Bowl, they're hopefully, you know, working on contract extensions with that young man, will get a chance to earn that paycheck. You know, that secondary is starting to solidify itself. And if they can make that extension to Cam Curl, then to me, defense will be solid. Let's start moving to the offense and see what else we can do there.
Yeah. Offense puts points on the board.
It does. Well, not our past couple of offenses, but yeah, it's supposed to.
Yeah. Well, this year, I think that, and it's a big if, and I hate to use that word, but it's something at this point until we know more. If I believe Howell can stay healthy and he can take another step up in the enemy's offense, bro, I think we're going to be dangerous. And it's just not me that's saying that. I've heard other commentators, national commentators, say, don't sleep on the Commanders' offense. As long as they can get somebody who can get them the ball, don't sleep on us. And that is the biggest thing that's hampering us. We've got what we need, man. Let's just get somebody who can get these guys the ball on a regular, consistent basis.
Yeah, and to me, that has to do with Eric Bieniemy coming here and scheming things up. And I envision Curtis Samuel in this offense being used like Tyreek Hill. And just that shiftiness and the way he moves, because we saw him hit that spin button a couple times on players last year. And if you actually have a coordinator that can dial up plays that have similarities to others, Scott Turner couldn't do that. And maybe that was because of limitations with who he had at quarterback or whatever, but he just couldn't do it. So knowing what Bieniemy brings from a play calling perspective and a play design perspective, and that we're finally getting some linemen. Now, granted, you know, Nick Gates, 7 surgeries, you know, didn't play the entire year last year. There are some question marks. And it would, for me, would just be nice to get a guy that is solid at that position, not a guy that plays guard and tackle, just a badass stud tackle.
Mhm.
But the team is addressing the holes that they have. They're recognizing them and not ignoring them, and they're making moves to fix it. And as a fan, that's all we can ask for is look at yourself in the mirror. Don't feed yourself a bunch of BS. Understand what's wrong and do the best you can to address it. And I think they're doing that right now on paper. We'll see how it all plays out.
It looks that way. And for all of our auditory guys, they're fixing the sound system. So, man, we're on a roll.
We're getting there, man. We're getting there. And I'm excited to see what else they do during the rest of this free agency period. It's just day one. So knowing that it's day one and we're 1 hour into it and we've got all this excitement, I can't wait to have an update next week to see where we are now.
No doubt about it. And you hear the music playing. And before we go, I've got to say, for all of you March Madness fans, come join me Friday night at 7 o'clock at FedEx Field, the sports book. Your drinks, your food, they're covered. It's being taken care of. Show up and come party with the Rally Captain at FedEx Field, the sports book to make that happen. It's free. Invite a date, impress her. The food and drinks are free. Come on out.
That's awesome,
All
man.
right.
So the Fanatic Sportsbook at FedEx Field, you got my tab. Everything's straight.
I got your tab, bro, along with Mrs. Tailgate, along with anybody that shows up. All right. All you got to do is find me. We'll all be together, and I'll say, Garçon, it's on our tab. It's taken care of.
Oh, Pierre's going to be
show up. No. Garçon, waiter, go on.
Oh, I got you. Because he used to have a pizza place, so I didn't know.
He did.
Yeah,
no,
okay.
If Pierre Garçon was there, brother, I would say Pierre Garçon was going to be there. But no, that's French for waiter, Anyway, thank you guys once again for donating. Woodbridge Collectibles, thank you guys for donating the jerseys to make it happen. American Red Cross, thank you guys as well. Man, we are on a roll, Ted, and I'm looking forward to what the 23-24 season has in store. Once again, coming to you from the Mess Hall, Tailgate Ted, Rally Captain. You rep it hard, or you don't rep it at all. That's going to do it for this week's episode, and we'll be out.